everyone, this is Carolina. Thanks so much for joining me today. I'm going to be showing you how to make this blossom ribbon flower is what I'm calling it. I'm calling it a blossom flower just because it's kind of thick and chunky and it just kind of goes in circles. So it reminds me of a blossom flower that you see out there. And I'm actually putting on this backpack. I'm using it to hide a magnet. And I'll show you how I do that. You'll need to get started 2 pieces of cardstock and 2 circles actually cardstock and 2 of the same size punched out of double-sided tape. I used 1 5/8 circle punch, I believe, for this one. You'll also need about 18 inches of ribbon. If it's stitched, it's even better because then that way you can just go ahead and get started. But if you don't have one, then you can just kind of do a running stitch and do it that way. So what I'm doing here with the needle, I'm just loosening up those threads because that's what I'm going to be pulling in order to gather. If you're having a hard time pulling the thread, you can loosen it up a little bit more. But you know, once you do them, you'll basically get the hang of it. So again, here I'm pulling the other side. You can also use tweezers in case you don't have any nails. That works just as well. And then for this end, we're just gonna pull enough to give us enough thread to tie 3 knots to it. So I'm not gonna pull it all the way, just like I said, enough to just tie 3 knots. And for video purposes, to speed it up, I'm only gonna show you when I tie the first one and then as I'm ending on the 3rd one. But it's important that you do at least 3. It's what I found that seems to kind of hold the ends together. Okay, and then you're just going to take your scissors and cut the excess off as such. Okay, and then do the same thing to the other side. Here I'm already gathering and I'm going to start tying it in a bit. I'm just kind of making sure I have enough of a gather for my flower. You can also put it down and kind of check that way. I kind of like to do that and then just cut off the excess because on this side you'll have way more thread left. So just cut off some of that and tied again 3 knots. And as I did before, I'm just kind of speeding it up so you only see me tie it once, but I did tie 3 knots on this one as well. And then cut off the excess so that you don't have a lot of threads hanging out everywhere once you start your flower. Okay, now you're going to bring back 1 of your cardstock circles and 1 of your double-sided adhesive circles and take 1 of the backings off that adhesive and basically put the circles together. Then you're going to take the remaining backing and this is where you're going to start your flower. Okay, so now you want to get your ribbon and just pick 1 of the ends and start in the middle. And the best way I found is basically you kind of turn the circle, you turn your hand as you go, and you kind of want to just start envisioning the flower. So turn your ribbon if you want, like for instance, I know a lot of the polka dots showing here, and I wanted a lot of the white thread showing, so I just kind of turned it to give it that kind of line throughout. But if you have a solid ribbon, then you really don't have to worry about it. Just kind of, you know, turn and twist and glue it down to the circle. And like for instance right here, I'm just turning it so I have the polka dots facing. You can kind of manipulate it still. And then at the end you can do 1 or 2 things. You can either add a little bit of like some stitches to it so it kind of holds a little bit more, or here I'm just adding it to the sticky tape and just tucking it in so that you don't see that messy end. It looks like it'll be part of the flower once you're done. So let me bring it back to the screen. I think I'm all done here. Okay, and the next step is I wanted to add a middle to it, so I decided on a brad. You don't have to, I just thought it was a nice finish to it. Using my piercing mat and my piercing tool, I basically pierced a hole in the middle as such. And then once you have that pierced, you're going to take your brad. See, as you notice, I'm kind of putting my thumb there to know that that's where I need to stick my brad through. And then turn it over, and using, again, I actually just used the back of my piercing tool, the other end of my piercing tool, to kind of bring down the little tabs on either end so that they stay flat. And as I mentioned, I'm actually using this to cover a magnet. So what you're going to do, I use the magnetic snaps from Basic Gray. I'm going to add the magnet to the sticky side, and then just put that on that end. And with that, it's ready to go. Thanks so much for joining me. Hope you have fun making these.